Thanks for the goodies, everyone. I'll make sure John gets his later in the week.
You know how to do it?
Yeah, it's already going. Thank you. Somebody else? Somebody new?
Sacramento.
Okay. I don't know who that is.
I can't remember her name. She was here last week.
Oh, great. I heard she's finished.
She is very
Hello.
happy.
That's so exciting. You're kind of all skewed this way. I'm going to get the people at the back to come closer. Come closer. I don't speak very loud, so I need you to come closer so you can hear me. There's a seat right up at the front, too. Don't be shy. Oh, okay, we'll save this one for... Come on, Sarah, move up. So there's a couple new faces. I know last week John did the whole introduction, everybody introduced themselves, right? So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sherri. I'm the other part of the teaching duo on this course. And I did actually catch, maybe I'll get you two to stagger because you're...
Blocking.
It's okay. And we haven't met. What is your name?
Roy.
Roy?
Yeah.
Welcome. And
Choice.
Joyce? Nice to meet you, Joyce. Roy and Joyce, were you here last week?
Yes.
Great. Great. Was everybody here last week? Was there anybody not here last week? Pam, okay. Did you catch it on Ustream?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
No, but I will.
Okay, great. Well, actually, you've been here. You were here for almost all of Diamond Cutters, so last week would have been a bit of a review.
Okay.
Because really it was about the motivation, renunciation, and the sufferings, the three sufferings. There's a little bit more, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So we like to start the classes with an opening prayer. Does everybody have an opening prayer?
If you have the binder, it's in the front of your binder.
Yeah, it should be at the very front. Thanks, Alvaro. We have extra copies. The reason we do this, well, actually, John explained it last week, didn't he? The reason we do this at the beginning? Yeah, Farah, can you tell everybody why we do this?
It's making an offering to the teachers of the lineage so that we can receive and be open to the teachings.
Yes, and I'm actually not allowed to teach you unless you ask. So this is my way of roping you into asking because I'm asking for the help of my teachers and you're asking to actually have me say something intelligent to you in the next couple of hours. So that's what we're doing. But what this is symbolic of is, this is called the mandala. Mandala is just a fancy Sanskrit word for a world or the universe. And this mudra, this finger yoga, depicts what they call the 4 continents and Mount Meru, which in Buddhist cosmology is the center of the universe. So what you're doing is you're symbolically offering up your entire world as you know it. And then there's a part in the opening prayers where it actually, there's a Sanskrit mantra that starts with idam, and then you let it go, you rotate it around, and you end up just in prayer. If none of this is comfortable for you, you can just sit with your hands open or just sit comfortably, but you've got it.
Thanks, team.
It's, I find it feels nice on the fingers. Yeah.
Mm.
There's a famous black and white photo of Allen Ginsberg doing this.
Mm.
Yeah. And some really, really great photographs of baby monks with their hands in this. They actually do this mudra at the monasteries when they're doing their opening prayers too. So everybody got a sheet?
Sashi
Puki Jukshin Metok Tram Rira Blimshin Yende Gyempadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwargi Drokun Nandak Shingla Chupar Shok Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niratayami Sange Chudam Sokji Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Junyen Ginpe Sunamki Drola Penshir Sange Drupar Sho Sange Chudam Sokji Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chunyen Ginpe Sunamki Drola Penshir Sange Dropar Shok Sange Chudam Sokti Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chunyen Ginpe Sunamki Drola Penshir Sange Dropar Shok.
You might have noticed that there's one word in that that's pronounced a little bit differently. In the paper it says Jinsok, Jinsok. And when you're reciting this by yourself, that is the correct word to say. We substitute a word that sounds like Jinyen, which means I ask for the teachings. So that Jinsok is Jinyen, and technically I'm supposed to say Jinshin, which is I give the teachings, but I feel I'm still asking for the teachings too, so I say the same thing. So just in case you're wondering why it sounds a little bit different than what it looks like it's transliterated as, that's the word. Okay, so Bodhisattva Vow Course. Why are you here? That was the whole sort of introduction last week, right? Like, you got to get clear on why you're here. Now, one thing is, just because you're here does not mean you must take vows, okay? So don't feel that it's an obligation. It's not. But if you want to take vows, after all is said and done, you must take this course or you don't receive your vows in this particular lineage. Doesn't mean you can't go buy them somewhere else, and I'm not really joking when I say buy, because you can literally plunk down your money and get an initiation in, almost anything you want if you search the net or, travel. There's a lot of different things being offered all the time. And it's not that they're not legitimate, they are. They're beautiful. All the different lineages have exquisite ceremonies and things like that. But in our particular lineage, our teachers have insisted that we are very, very clear, not only on our motivation, but very clear on understanding what the vows are, so that when you do take them, you will be very well protected against breaking them, and you will actually know what it is that you are doing, so that you can maximize your virtue. I had the privilege of sitting in on a beautiful Tibetan Bodhisattva vow ceremony given by an amazing Lama named Donsa Khensen Rinpoche, who is also a filmmaker. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie called The Cup, or Travelers and Magicians. He's the director of that, and he used to come through Vancouver more frequently. Also, the Sea to Sky Retreat Center on your way to Whistler is of his lineage. Anyways, I was present at UBC when he gave them. And the thing is, when you have your Bodhisattva vows, you can actually refresh them whenever they're being offered, which is really sweet also. So I sat there as a blessing, but he gave it all in Tibetan, and it was beautiful just to hear it. But it was all recited. They snipped off a lock of hair off of the people who were receiving it. They all kind of got a card, and that was it. There was no explanation of the vows. There was no, but that's traditional. That's usually the way it's given. And So there are many, many, many people on this planet who have been given vows and they don't even know what they are. So they could be breaking them left, right, and center. You just don't know. And we don't want you to be doing that, okay? So that's why we go into 10 courses on this stuff so that you're very, very, very clear. And we're not making any of it up. This is from last week. Did you go over all the sources that the vows are from? They were spoken by the Buddha. They were brought together. Jetsun Kappa was massive in bringing them all together, but even before that, Master Asanga, basically being dictated to by Lord Maitreya, depending on which text and which presentation you're getting. Maitreya is either a high-level Bodhisattva or already a Buddha, but regardless, very, very highly evolved being. And we've got some beautiful commentaries that have been translated by Geshe Michael and his team of translators to give us this information in our own language, which is another feat. Because I don't know about you, but my Tibetan kind of sucks. So it's really, really great that it's in English. How many people in the room have heard of Source of All My Good by Jetsun Kappa? A few of you? And who hasn't? Okay, 4. Okay. Farah, after class today, I'm going to email you the document file, and if you could just send it out to everybody, even if they've got it. The Source of All My Good is the 14 stanza verse exquisite poem by Jetsun Kappa that outlines the entire Lam Rim. Lam Rim are the steps to the path of enlightenment. Actually, he wrote 10,000 volumes and nobody could understand them. So then they begged him to edit them down, and then he wrote 1,000. And it was still over everybody's head, so he wrote, for us dummies, he wrote the Source of All My Good in 14 stanzas. And it's a beautiful, beautiful guidebook. It really is the guidebook. It's the, you know what, if you go into a mall and you've got the map and you've got an arrow and there's a big sign that says you are here, well, when you read the Source of All My Good, you can find your arrow. You can find where you are at any given time and know what your next step is and where you need to go. Where we are on the Source of All My Good right now is a stanza that reads, let me see if I can read this. It goes like this. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my own mother, has fallen in too. Grant me then to practice the highest wish for enlightenment, to take upon myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that this wish itself is not enough, for if I am not well trained in the 3 moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the vows for children of the victors. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. That particular stanza in the 14 is all about the Bodhisattva vows. Children of the victors is a beautiful way of saying Bodhisattva. And a Bodhisattva is a spiritual warrior, someone who has not only decided to get out of this suffering life for themselves, but for everyone else also. So there's this altruistic motivation, right? And remember, see, by the time you're at this point on the Lam Rim, you've already found your teacher. You've already gone through giving up the attachment to the suffering life. So you've got an awareness of death, you've got an understanding of karma and emptiness, you're working to not only prevent a rebirth in a lower realm, but a rebirth altogether, and now you've got the added altruistic motivation of taking everybody else with you, right? So to do this, though, they're saying that even with this motivation to become a Buddha, if you do not master the 3 moralities, you're not going to make it. So this class is going to let us know what that means. The beautiful thing about these poems is that it does give it to you in this, this handful of words, right? But each word is loaded, and each word can be unpacked and contemplated on for quite a long time to actually, in the monasteries, there was a tradition where you actually had to gain the realizations of that step before you were allowed on to the next one. And there's something to be said for that, actually. Bless you. But the 3 moralities. So, it's right in there, right? It says clearly, you can't get there if you don't know this. So, what are they? We really need to figure this out. Mm-hmm. So the 3 moralities, I can't remember what I wrote up there. Oh, yes, okay. It's not written up there, but say nam sum la.
Nam sum la.
Sum means 3. So nam sum la are the 3 types of morality. And Jungchu, repeat after me, Jungchu, Nendupa, means that you will not become a Buddha. You will not reach enlightenment without them. So, yeah. So let's go over that first line that's written up there. And this is all in your notes. Any of you who have a binder, in the back section, don't read along. That's the other thing. With your binder, it's really useful to not read ahead. Listen to the class and then read it. Catch it again on Ustream if any of it has slipped. And then read it. And then please read the notes at the back by this amazing student of Geshe Michael's named John Stillwell, who back in the 90s recorded all of the original classes and came up with these incredible notes without which none of us would have ever completed our ACI homework. So we really bow down to him. Anyways, so we're going to go over the first of the 3. Hi, Leonardo. Say Nyechu, Dompe, Tsultrim. Tsultrim means morality. Okay? And this is the first kind of morality. There's 3 kinds, right? The 3 moralities. The first one is just basic, straightforward, what you would think of when you hear the word morality. It's basically restraining yourself from doing bad things. Okay? And let me just take a step back. Do you also know we're in the Gelugpa school, which is the list lineage? We like our lists. So, of course, this is not a straightforward list. So the first of the 3 has 2 parts, okay? So this basic morality has 2 parts. One is just the simple restraint, which in the Buddhist vernacular is the 10 non-virtues. But you know what? Every authentic spiritual tradition has something. Christianity has the Golden Rule, the 10 Commandments, the Boy Scout Code. There's all the. Actually, even Alcoholics Anonymous has the 12 steps, right? There's all of these different. They're codes of morality, and so that would be one branch. The other branch is classic vowed morality, and we'll go into both of these. So of the 10 non-virtues, really it's morality to restrain you from doing things that will collect bad karma. Can anyone tell me the definition of a bad karma?
Brings an unpleasant result.
Yes. So it's not that something is bad from its own side. It's not, see, karma is empty too, right? The only definition of a bad karma is if it brings you a bad result. If it results in suffering for you later. Okay? So these 10 non-virtues, if you do them, guaranteed 100% to get a bad result. Maybe not right away, which is the tricky part, because we think that by cheating on our taxes, we get a refund, right? We think that the influx of cash was related to lying. Can't be. Not related at all, okay? So you have to really understand what these are. So the 10 non-virtues are divided. This is a review for many of the people in the room, but there's 3 of the body, 3 of speech, and 3 of mind. No.
4 of speech.
4 of speech and 3 of mind. Thank you. Yes. I'm like, wait, 3 does not add up to 10. 3 of body, 4 of speech, 3 of mind. So, who can tell me the 3 of body?
Protecting
Leanna.
life.
Okay.
And
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
She can give us the next 4. Protecting life. Well, actually, give it to me in the non-virtues.
In the non-virtues,
Yeah.
killing,
Yeah.
stealing,
Mm-hmm.
and sexual misconduct.
Sexual misconduct. That's right. So for killing, in the Abhidharma Kosha, it basically said the definition is taking the life of any living being. Any living being. That includes cockroaches and mosquitoes. Any living being. They even say fetus, actually. They
Bedbugs?
yeah. It's interesting. It gets really interesting. You know, Lama Marut says the only difference between pests and pets is the arrangement of the letters. Yeah. Stealing is defined as taking anything of value that is not yours, that is not rightfully yours. And, you know, in the ancient scriptures, they actually give a value, which I think at one point Geshe-la tried to convert to current currency, and it was something like 9 cents or something like that. So, but really the definition is anything that is of value that is not rightfully yours, okay? And sexual misconduct, the most obvious, is adultery, and they say between 2 committed parties, whether they're legally married or not. If one party still feels it's a commitment, it still counts. So it gets very, very technical. 4 of Leonardo, do you know the 4 of speech?
I speak in the positive. Can I do that?
No, give it to me in the authentic,
Okay.
yield, negative.
Okay, so number 4 would be lying.
Yep.
Number 5 would be divisive speech.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6 would be, hang on, write it down. Speaking, oh, I only know, hang on. I forgot 6.
Don't worry about the order. So
Okay.
lying, divisive,
Speech. Meaningless
idle,
talk, and
harsh, or critical.
harsh words, yes. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, I don't know the other
Lying, they say, is, you know, not just the obvious, but it's also when you give someone an incorrect impression, even if the words you're saying are actually true. Harsh is criticism or foul language, or if you're speaking angrily, you know, like if it's disruptive to others. Idle is interesting. You know, your plain old water cooler gossip stuff, but also saying you're going to do something and not doing it, or not having any intention of doing it. That's also idle. Talking just for the sake of talking. And what am I missing? So lying, divisive.
speech.
Yeah,
Divisive is
divisive.
splitting people up. So
What?
splitting people up.
Oh, okay.
And again, you can do it in what sounds like a sweet, like it doesn't have to be overt, it can be covert. And that's actually the covert are the more tricky ones. Even if what you're saying is true, if it puts 2 people further apart, it's divisive. Did you have a question, Leonardo?
I do. Harsh speech, that also includes judging, right? Judging others?
It can. It can, absolutely. Judging, interestingly enough, is considered a mental affliction as opposed to a non-virtue.
Okay.
But non-virtues are motivated by mental afflictions. They're worse if they're motivated by mental afflictions. And they can also elicit mental afflictions. Yeah. Because, again, judging, right? I mean, we have to have discernment. We have to know what's right and wrong. We have to want to help others and make sure people are out of pain. So there's nothing wrong. Again, it's not fixed from its own side, but making a judgment against somebody, like the Lord Buddha famously said, unless you are me or someone like me, meaning fully enlightened, do not judge another person or you will surely fail. You will surely fall. And what he meant was this ignorant judging, where we decide that you're wrong and I'm right, or, like that. So those are the 4 of the speech. And then the 3 of mind. Sarah, do you know the 3 of mind? Maybe Farah can help you.
Non-coveting, non-ill will, not having ill will. And
So in the negative, it's coveting.
Coveting,
ill
ill will,
will,
and wrong world
wrong
view.
Wrong world view. So coveting is jealousy, basically, wanting what's not yours, right? But actually the definition is when you're unhappy when somebody else gets something that they want. And is this so insidious? You might not even want it for yourself, but just because they have it, you get this little feeling, right? That's coveting. Ill will is when you're happy that somebody is unhappy, that they didn't get what they really wanted. But wrong view is the worst of all. Wrong view is, well, there's a couple of wrong views, but the biggest wrong view, and it's the ultimate mistake that we make all the time, this is the definition of ignorance, is that we think the world comes at us and not from us. We think that things are fixed, external to us. We believe the world is out there and we walk through it. Whereas if you've studied this stuff for a while, you really start to consider that the world is actually coming from you and you do have control over what you're walking through. And then catching yourself actually doing it is where we're trying to get to, right? Did you have a question, Doug?
For example, on the mind when you said ill will, if somebody does something to you and you, wrongly think it's because they did something and that's why it's bad, something bad is happening to you. Like somebody drove by and splashed me with their truck when I was waiting, okay? So then I sit there and think, geez, I hope that something happens to him, just the thought of having it, even if right when the thought comes you say, that's the wrong thought, it's the thought still happened.
It still happened, but don't beat yourself up about that. If you caught it, then that is a big part of the battle. And this is what we're trying to just be aware that we're doing it, right? Because if we're not even aware we're doing it, then we can't stop it or do something else. Yeah. So often when we first start paying attention, it feels like, oh my God, I'm getting worse, because you'll just notice. I remember early on catching myself if I was watching someone get towed, and something inside me was like, yeah, they parked in the wrong place. But I didn't even know, it wasn't even anyone I knew. I know how it feels to show up and have your car gone. It's not, but there was something that popped up, but I caught it, and I actually burst out laughing because I thought, oh my God, there it is, right? But could I stop it from ripening? No. But could I stop from having it do anything other than burn out? Yeah. I caught it, and now it becomes a very beautiful example I can use in my classes. But,
so if you caught it and your desire in your mind changes from you know, and you can laugh about it and realize you were wrong, does that end the bad karma? Or does
Well, it helps. It definitely
Makes it less,
It
then.
makes it less, and then also what makes it better is if I can conjure up some compassion for the situation. But even more, look at why am I even saying this? Like, what is the teaching in this for me? Like, what's really going on here, right? Because that's actually me being towed, actually, right?
Yeah.
And how is that? How does that compute? Why, like, rather than it being a wasted ripening, karma's ripening around us all the time, popping like popcorn all the time, and it's just a matter of what we choose to do with it. So, and as we become more and more aware of these types of things, then we can, we have a basis upon which to track our progress. And tracking is important. So the thing that obviously you'll hear a lot about through us is the 6 time book. It's a tracking method, or the book. If any of you have never heard of the book, in the bookshelves back there, there's a little pink book called The Book, and I highly recommend that you pick it up and take a browse through it. Those of us who have been tracking our vows for a while, and those of us who have some tantric vows, it's actually a vow at that level to keep that. So it's good practice to start, you know, and it's interesting because when you start keeping track of this kind of stuff, it becomes a really interesting scientific experiment. I treat it like a clinical trial, especially if there's anything not working in your life that you would really, really, really like to burn that karma off once and for all. We don't know how deep our pockets are with it, but if it's a persistent nagging problem, there are general causes that we can work at. And they basically boil down to these 10 non-virtues. Apparently we have over 80,000 bad deeds we could possibly do, but the ones we do most of the time are the top 10. These are the top 10. So if you get the big guns, then all the other ones are, they either fall by the wayside or they dissolve because you know, Geshe used to say that a tactic when he was he grew up with brothers and like all boys, and apparently they used to fight a lot. And he said, you know, if there was like neighborhood gangs or whatever, you always went for the big guy. Like you went for the ringleader. If you got the ringleader, then you split up, like there was no more gang, you know. And it's like that with your non-virtues, with your bad deeds, with your mental afflictions. Go after the big guns. If you get rid of those, then life is a whole lot easier and smoother. So these 10 non-virtues are part of the first morality. If the first definition of the 3, remember these are the 3 moralities you need to really get a control of, get a handle on, master, understand, so that you can become a Buddha. You can actually do your job as a Bodhisattva, right? So that's the first division of the first of the 3 moralities, okay? Got it? Second part, so this is like morality 1, that was morality 1A. This is morality 1B, which is vowed morality. And vowed morality is really what this whole course is, the Bodhisattva Vows, right? That's one form of vowed morality. But the very, very basic one is what you might know of as the Pratimoksha vows, or the freedom vows. And these are like basic refuge vows in Buddhism. So but the Pratimoksha vows, they can be a one-day vow, or they can be more extensive. But this is actually say Nyechu, Dompe, Zoltrim. We're still on that. This is the second division. And so of the vowed morality, there's Pratimoksha. And then there's 8 types of Buddhist vows of morality. There's a full monk, and that they have 253 vows. A full nun has 364. So nuns have more vows than a monk. An intermediate nun. By the way, an intermediate nun and a fully ordained nun at this point still do not exist in the Tibetan lineage, because back in the day there was this insane king who assassinated most of the nuns, and you need a certain quorum in order to make a new nun. So now there are fully ordained nuns in our Tibetan Buddhist lineage, but they've been ordained in ordained in the Chinese or in other. His Holiness is working on it. I know that they're making great strides in changing this, and I know that nuns are now allowed to debate, and they're allowed to get their geshe degree. But that's new. That's within the last year. But I don't think this full ordination thing has come through yet. But so, anyways, these are the different ones. Novice monk.
What was it? Intermediate?
Intermediate. I don't
Nun,
have
what
the
was
number.
her vows? Oh, you don't have.
We think it's because they don't exist anymore. But we think it's 36. Oh, no, sorry, this is the novice. Novice monk, novice nun have 36. I think intermediate has 12 more or something like that. And so there is a fully ordained monk and a novice monk. There's no intermediate monk, but there was a fully ordained intermediate and novice nun. Those were the different levels of... So vowed morality, we're talking monastic morality, right? But there's also vowed morality for lay people. And there's 3. So the ones that we know the most are what we call lifetime layperson's vows, and there's 5 of them. And we actually, when we confer vows here, we give the refuge vows, the lifetime layperson's vows, and the Bodhisattva vows all together. And in the lifetime layperson's vows, it's basically the first 4 of the non-virtues. So it's no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct. But they also add no taking intoxicants, alcohol or intoxicants. And there is a similar vow like that you can just take for one day. You can take a one-day layperson's vows too. And it's a little bit more elaborate. You're not allowed to sing and dance the whole day and things like that. Wear jewelry and stuff. It's interesting, in our lineage we're actually encouraged to sing and dance. So, depends on who your teachers are, right? In fact, we're going to take a dance break at a certain point, so... Yeah, normally when you take Bodhisattva vows, you have to have one of these other Patimoksha morality vows. These come from the Vinaya texts. The vowed morality, Vinaya is what monks study. And it's from the Abhidharmakosha. These are the texts that are studied in the monasteries. There's 16 volumes, 16,000 pages, and they're not meant to be restrictive or repressive in any way. The thing about vows is it makes it very, very, very clear what code of conduct will bring you a good result. And when you're very clear on that, it's not rocket science to, if you want a good outcome, then if you don't want a good outcome, then do this. If you want a good outcome, don't do this. It's pretty clear. There is a beautiful ACI course on the Vinaya, just on the Vinaya, and it's one of the, it's either the next one or the one after that. It's either 8 or 9, and if you guys continue with this, you will get the full breakdown of the 260. Well, like they'll go through all of them. You won't actually go through each individual vow, because monk's vows actually you're not allowed to get until you're ordained. Bodhisattva vows are the only vows actually that you have the privilege of learning and understanding clearly before you commit to them. All the other vows, like the monk's vows, tantric vows, you leap and then you find out what you just dumped into. So, but having said that, Geshe Michael recently taught, and you can hear it if you go onto the website, The Knowledge Base, and there's just all the ACI, all of his early ACI audios are on there now also. But he's been giving great retreat teachings, like all through this silent retreat. He's been giving retreat teachings, and the one that happened in the spring, he gave a beautiful talk on the Vinaya, and he actually talked about the monk's vows. I had the privilege of transcribing that for him, and it's just exquisite. So I do encourage you guys, if you have any extracurricular time to listen, the Vinaya talks by him are beautiful. And I gotta tell you, the first 4 major monk's vows are the first 4 non-virtues. So, they've got to be pretty important. Okay, we're still on the 3 types of morality, right? Like we only did the first one, which had 2 parts. Second major breakdown of the morality is called the morality of collecting goodness. And this, again, has 2 divisions, of course. So, the main one here are the 6 perfections. And anyone who's taken a Tibetan Heart Yoga 1 level class here will have worked their way through the 6 perfections. Farhan and I had several weeks chatting on Drishti Point Radio about the 6 perfections, so I think they're podcast on there. Yep. Become a member of Drishti Point and you can access all the archives. We had a lot of fun talking about them. These are, the 6 perfections are basically the code of conduct for a bodhisattva. And also in ACI courses 10, 11, and 12, in a guide to a bodhisattva's way of life by Master Shantideva, these perfections get really beautifully elaborated upon. But these are it's the second level of morality where these come in. And let's just quickly run through what they are. Who can tell me the first one?
Perfection of giving.
Perfection of giving. And, they say there's 4 different ways to give.
I know what they are. Right?
Okay, go ahead.
The first one is material. The second one is freedom of fear, like protection.
Freedom from fear, yeah.
The third one is love. The fourth one is the teachings. The Dharma teachings.
The Dharma teachings, good. And you know how you protect people or beings from fear? By holding to your 10 non-virtues. Like you're basically protecting them against you, right? Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, there's the obvious where you protect, someone from an obvious apparently external danger, but ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also say that the gift of teaching is the highest of all. So the material, giving money or food or shelter, is important, but it's actually not the highest. So it's interesting in that breakdown. The second perfection is sometimes called, we like to call it the perfection of kindness. But this is the perfection of ethics and morality. Doing no harm, okay? The third one is the perfection of patience. And this is an interesting one. It's not just about being able to wait for a long period of time, or it's not about not railing on your horn in gridlark, okay? It's actually about not getting, the real definition of the third perfection is when everything is perfect to put you into a full-blown rage. You don't. Out of wisdom. Out of wisdom, you do not return anger with anger. You do not respond with anger. And so this not getting angry is the third one. The fourth one is joyous effort, which is kind of the fulcrum. You need joyous effort to help you with the first three and the last two. And this is about taking absolute delight in whatever hardships you have to go through for your spiritual practice. And when you get serious about your spiritual practice, hardships arise. Because we're clearing out those deep pockets of crap, right? So it's kind of inevitable. Those of you who have survived the Diamond Cutter Sutra course, and there was a warning at the beginning, right? The fine print was, you take this course, expect this to hit the fan, okay? I don't know if you guys know, but I was just really sick last week with like a raging fever. I don't get sick at all. I haven't been sick in 3 years. And then it's sort of like, oh yeah, right, we just finished the Diamond Cutter Sutra. Purification. So then the fourth perfection is the perfection of stillness or concentration, and this is where meditation comes in. You know, this cultivating the ability to not be distracted by things that would derail you from your practice or from your spiritual evolution. And then that automatically leads to the last one, which is the perfection of wisdom, which is the actual perfection. And they say that until you perfect that, you can't perfect the other ones, but then that sounds like a bit of a catch-22. So what it is that they're all, some of our teachers like to call them all perfectionizers, like each one helps you move up the rungs of your perfection, right? And then it automatically flops you over into the last one, and when you've got that, you're gold. Like you're perfect, right? So, but until you're perfect, and the perfect would be that you're totally enlightened, these are the things that you do to get yourself there, okay? So that's the first breakdown of this second level of morality, and it's the actions that will, remember we were calling this whole section the morality of collecting goodness, right? So how you collect goodness, what that means is you need to, in order to become an enlightened being, you need to collect masses of virtue, massive amounts. How are you going to do that? You do it by doing this. You do it by doing the 6 perfections. Like you do it by step 1, which is the restraints, the non-virtues, and the vows, like keeping them. And then you do them by doing these activities, by doing the 6 perfections. And the second division is that these actions are going to turn you into an enlightened being. So it's kind of like 2 sides of the same thing. Like you do the actions to become an enlightened being, and these actions will turn you into an enlightened being. Okay? It's, what it is, this is really interesting. The 6 perfections are the causes to make you omniscient. They give you 2 parts of, sometimes they break down the bodies of a Buddha, and don't think of it as like different looks that you're going to have. It's really more like different parts of you when you're fully enlightened. And the 6 perfections are going to give you 2 parts. Mainly, they're going to create the physical body, how you're going to look physically, and they're going to create your omniscient mind. So that's remember I said the second part has, the second morality has 2 parts. Well, the first part is the 6 perfections, which is the causes to get your Buddha body. And when you get your Buddha body, this second one is going to give you those 2 things. It's going to give you your Buddha body, and it's going to give you your omniscient mind. Okay? The third of the 3 moralities, we're almost there, is called working for the good of others. Okay, so the first one was just plain old morality. The second one was collecting goodness, and you could put in fine print for yourself. And the third one is working for the good of all others. Okay? And this one is defined by doing the first two of the three moralities with the motivation of doing them for the sake of all living beings. Okay? So, yeah. So in the first one, right, you're avoiding bad deeds to clean up your karma and not plant new bad karma. Give yourself as much opportunity to plant new good karma. The second one, you're really planting new good karma. And in the third one, you're doing both of those things with the intention that you're doing it for the sake of all other beings. And that's what gives you the three types of morality. So now you know. And that's what's going to lead you to be able to uphold the Bodhisattva vows and to get there. So just quickly, in terms of the main vows that we talk about openly, we talk about the pratimoksha vows, which are the individual freedom vows. And what they are is they bring these, if you hold these vows, they bring the individual to freedom. Freedom is code word for nirvana. It's when you're free of your mental afflictions, which is really a beautiful, like nirvana is not a place that you go to. Like you don't turn left at Grouse and go, 50 miles left and you're there. It's wherever you are when your mind stops being afflicted forever. Kind of cool, hey? To be completely beyond, to be free of any negative thoughts. The level of vows that we're talking about here are the Bodhisattva vows. These are the vows that we're going to study in great detail for the next 8 weeks. And then there's a third level of vows called the Tantric vows, the secret vows. And you do need to have had the first two, the Pratimoksha and the Bodhisattva, before you can qualify for your tantric vows. And actually your tantric vows will not work if you do not uphold what they call the lower vows. Okay? But the thing about the tantric vows, they're like Bodhisattva vows on supercharge. Like they're really basically taking everything that you're going to be learning with the Bodhisattva vows and just cranking it up, because it's going to get you there in this life. Like the Bodhisattva vows will get you to enlightenment, eventually. Tantric vows get you there in this life. That's what they mean by in a single instant, okay? So, how's everybody doing? Let's see. How about everybody just stand up and take a stretch for a sec? It's not dance break time yet. What I'm trying to do today, by the way, is I'm trying to give you 1.5 classes, because next week, I don't know if you guys know, it's John's Marok. Marok is your final graduation ceremony after you've completed all 18 ACI courses. So we're going to have a 1-hour Bodhisattva vow course, then we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to have John's Marok. So I'm hoping everybody can stay for that, because it's a participatory thing, and it's also just really, really lovely to show that type of support. But it also means our class is short next week, so I'm going to try and get you half of it today. Actually, everybody stand up, and stand like with your feet hip-width apart. Thank you, Don. Raise your arms up overhead and just reach. Up, 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 up. Breathe in. On your exhale, lean to the right. Now really hold that stretch while you're not holding your breath, okay? Like breathe. Come back up. Change the crossing of your hand. Inhale, reach up, 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 up. Exhale, lean the other way. Good. Come back up. Bring your arms down. Make sure you've got some room. Fold forward. Oh, feel the stretch down the backs of your legs. If it's possible for you to touch down to the ground, do that. Otherwise, bend your knees a lot and get your hands right down on the ground. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Now bring your right hand to the outside of your left ankle or shin, your left hand on your back, and then look up over your left shoulder, back up to the ceiling. And release that. And then bring your left hand to the outside of your right ankle or shin, right hand to your back, look up over your right shoulder. And release that, shake everything out. You need to go to the bathroom, go grab a glass of water. Okay, excellent, because I'm giving you 1.5 classes today, okay? Good stuff. So we're gonna finish this class and then have a dance break. Cute. Oh, Girl Guides.
If I forget to give them to you, I'll take them back home, and that would not be.
Thank you.
Is your daughter selling them?
No, but a friend at school is, so.
Excellent.
One day she'll be able to hire her, but I'll teach a piece.
This is your for tea. If you want to finish, I'll get you some water.
That's good. Okay. Everybody good? So, you know, sometimes people ask, why do I need to take vows? Like, I'm a good person. I think these are really great guidelines for everyday activity, and I'm just going to do them. I don't need to take vows. There is actually a difference between doing something just because you think it's right and because you actually committed to doing them. And the main reason is that if you've committed to doing them, you've committed to it, whether you feel like it or not. You got to do it. Whereas if it's just I'm doing it because I'm a nice person, that motivation will run out the minute it becomes inconvenient. Okay? So there is a difference. And what is beautiful about any Buddhist teaching I've ever heard is that they always tell you what's in it for you. Okay? So I'm going to tell you what's in it for you for the Bodhisattva Vows. There's 4.
I went to Tibetan days like a few months ago downtown, and I got this little, it said, good thoughts beget good deeds, and vows beget blessings.
That's lovely. That's beautiful. Yeah. There's 4 classic reasons why we should want to have our vows, or what the benefit is of keeping them. These actually come, by the way, I didn't make these up, these come from Maitreya as told to Master Asanga. These are the classic 4 advantages. The first one is that, the benefit of actually taking a vow as opposed to just trying to be a good person is that you take it from somebody else. You take your vows from a vow preceptor. You bow down in front of somebody and promise to do this thing, okay? So the very fact that you take them from someone else. Now, first of all, you have to be sure that this someone else that you take them from has certain qualities. And we're going to go into a fair amount of detail about what the qualifications of a vow preceptor is, and also what the qualifications of you as a vow taker, if you choose to, what those qualifications are also. But when you've got both in place, one of the benefits of taking vows is that you take them from this person. So ever after, you will remember that moment and that promise you made. And if you come even close to breaking a vow, they say that two things happen. And these are the qualities of shame and consideration. You may have heard these before in ACI. Shame is the quality where you are embarrassed to yourself. It doesn't matter if anyone else even knows you've come close to breaking the vow, you know. And out of that shame, the fact that you wouldn't want to confess it to the person who gave you your vows, you don't. The consideration is that you consider what it would do to the minds of other people who would see you breaking your vows. And out of consideration, you don't. So again, this is the importance of, or the benefit of taking the vow is the fact that you took it in front of someone else and other people. It automatically brings up these two safeguards, okay? The second benefit is your motivation that you get to keep your vows once you've taken your vows. And they also say that, you should have this motivation very, very clear before you take your vows. Don't take them just because everybody else in the room is taking them. Don't take them because it's some sort of a competitive thing or because you think you're going to look good to other people. Like, these are, in fact, they say if you have any of these wrong motivations, the vows won't take anyways. Even if you're in the room and you get the blah blah and you get the finger snap and all of that, it won't take. So you do, the motivation is very, very, very important. And the main motivation should be that you're really clear on your renunciation, the fact that you're done with this suffering life, that there is something you can do about it, and gosh darn it, this is going to get you there, so that you can help, that you can be a helper and not a helpee. And it's with that motivation that you will be protected. This kind of boils down to the shame and consideration too. It does become a self-esteem ego thing in a way, but for the right reasons. Not in terms of how you're going to look to others, but how it is that you're actually going to be able to help others. Because you can't really help them until you get yourself enlightened. You can't really help them. Actually, you know what? Even reduce the goal down to, let's all see emptiness directly. Get there and you're already helping. Okay? But until then, we're going through the motions. So, that's the second one. Third one is that the vows are fixable. This is actually important. If you damage them, except for two, you can fix them. And that's really cool. And that's why, remember I said to you, like, I've taken my vows as I've refreshed my vows whenever I can and whenever I've had the opportunity. It's a beautiful thing to do. It's kind of like you get a free pass again, and you get to kind of like, it's like those, I don't know if this is dating me, but I had, as a kid, I had this little toy that you can, is it Etch-a-Sketch? That you can draw on it, and then you can shake it, and it all goes back to this neutral ground. It's kind of like that. You can Etch-a-Sketch your vows and start collecting the good stuff again, right? So it's a good thing that they're fixable, and they're because we're still in samsara, right? We're still in this suffering realm right now, so you are going to have bad days. You are going to have days where, otherwise it wouldn't be called a practice, right? Otherwise you wouldn't need to be here listening to any of this stuff. And so it's good that there are ways to fix some of these vows. And the last one is that you don't break them in the first place because of everything else You see, if you're keeping moralities 1, 2, and 3, then you're not going to be breaking your vows anyways, right? And so there's this built-in safeguard, and that's the fourth benefit. These are the 4 traditional benefits, as told to Asanga by Maitreya. Geshe-la said something beautiful. He said, if you keep the first 2 of the 4, you will gain the 4th advantage. Yeah.
Can you repeat what the second one was?
Okay. Remember the
Motivation.
first? Yeah, the motivation.
That's
right reason why you take the vows? Because you want to reach enlightenment and help others.
So the motivation
Protects you. The motivation is what keeps you keeping your vows, because your motivation is to get to enlightenment, and you know, like, that's what you promise to do. When you take your vows, you promise that that's what you're going to do. So if you come close to breaking your vows, you remember that motivation, and that's what keeps you from breaking them. Geshe-la has a really, really beautiful example. It was actually in the spiritual partnership teachings, but he was talking about how jealousy. Now, he gives these examples for our benefit. He's never had a jealous moment in his life, but he uses jealousy a lot. If you listen to the ACI audios, he brings it up a lot, how he was jealous of Art Engel, other Dharma teachers, and in the context of spiritual partnerships, he gives this example that it was in the mental afflictions teachings, and it was about how jealousy is one of the top 6, right? So he says, here's the classic, when someone will say to you, why are you jealous that your partner is speaking to somebody else? Because you are a bodhisattva. You promised to see to the happiness of all beings. That's making them happy. So if you don't want them to be happy, then you're breaking your vows. And it goes around in this circular little comment where, it becomes actually ludicrous at a certain point. But again, these pop-ups happen, right? Like our partner's talking to someone else, and we get this little protective, thing, and it's like, but I am vowed to see to the happiness of everyone. So why would I begrudge anyone a moment's happiness being in the company of each other if I'm really living up to my vows, right? And it can be that subtle. But it's really an interesting game that we start to get to play with our mental afflictions, with our kleshas. Because usually, if you're afflicted, it's because you want something for yourself, right? Something for yourself. Your ego's affronted, or there's something fixed that you're not seeing the emptiness of. And it becomes this really... The other thing Geshe-la says is you get into a room of people who are trying to keep their vows, and you'll get a lot of half-finished sentences, or you'll get a lot of false starts where they're about to do something and they catch themselves and then they pull themselves away, and you can see it actually happening. And he says that's a good sign. It's a good sign, but yeah, it's interesting. I've caught my own mind doing it. It was really interesting being sick last week because everything slowed down, including the speed with which my kleshas were rising, but my kleshas were rising more because I was run down and feverish and all of this. But it was interesting because it was like watching slow motion photography, and I couldn't stop a feeling from arising, but I could really laugh at it because I could watch it like this, oh my God, there it is, and it was just by the grace of being forced to slow down because of being ill that I was able to observe that. It was an interesting play on it. Okay. I'm just going to switch gears a little bit here to tell you that there are 2 kinds of Bodhisattva vows. Do you know how many vows there are? Did you go over that last week?
64.
64. Okay, so there's 2 categories. There is, and it's further down here. Where is it? Say Tsa-tung
Sa-tung
and Nye-je.
Nye-je.
Yeah. Tsa-tungs are the root downfalls. This is really interesting. Vows are given as the what not to do, right? Just like the 10 non-virtues. We like to put it in the positive as protect life, honor other people's relationships, things like that. But the actual vows are given in the negative Same with the Bodhisattva Vows. So they're called the root downfalls because if you break one of these, you completely fall down. You completely ruin your chances to reach enlightenment if you were to break them completely. But remember how there's all these stop gaps in between so that we're trying to not break them? But there's 18 of the 64 are considered root downfall. They're the most heavily weighted karmically. And I gotta tell you, of those 18, 2 are deal breakers. The other 16 you can fix, but 2, you go straight to the lowest hells if you break them.
And what are those 2?
Good question. Actually, we're going to unpack them in great detail over the next several courses, but just to give you the Coles notes in case, because time, you never know, it's number 9 and number 18, okay? And, yeah. One is anger at a bodhisattva, and another one is wrong views. Actually, no, not anger at a bodhisattva. It's wrong views and not believing in karma and emptiness, which is kind of the same thing. But it's vow number 9 and vow number 18. But we're gonna unpack it in big detail over the next several weeks. And so, do the math. 64 minus 18. There's 46 nyejes, secondary vows. Okay. So secondary vows are not as heavily weighted. I gotta tell you, you still don't want to do them, okay? But they're not as bad as the 18 root downfalls. Now here's the saving grace with 16 of the 18 root downfalls. If you do them, but not loaded with bad mental afflictions, then they actually become secondary vows. They don't become, so there's kind of, again, built-in fail-safes here, okay? You have to actually have what's called the 4 chains. And again, we're going to go into great detail on that, so I'm not going to go over them right now. But you need 4 chains, mental conditions in place for a root downfall to really be severed. And if these 4 are not in place and it is still one of the first 18, they become a secondary vow, secondary downfall. Okay? Okay. Today is just to give you the skeleton of it, and then over the next several weeks, we're actually going to go through every single vow, and we're going to talk about what it is and what it isn't, and how we avoid doing it, and if we break it, what we have to do to make up for it. Okay? So, okay. The one thing Jetsukapa does say, he's very adamant about this. There is kind of a built-in. Were any of you here for Lama Kimberly's talks at all? Okay, yeah. She did this gorgeous thing where she gave us a whole psychological background, basis, foundation for spiritual development. And so it's almost like the hierarchy of, what do you call it? Maslow. But it wasn't Maslow's hierarchy, but it was in those progressively more subtle levels of awareness and all of that. Anyways, there was this really beautiful thing. It was divided into 3 columns, and there was the main thing that it was, everything from like basic survival to warrior to modern, postmodern, like it just kept going up, right? And then there was like the highly evolved version of it and the underbelly of each of those levels, all the way up to the most esoteric. And at the spiritual level, one of the biggest things to watch out for is ego, because you have had realizations, you have had certain insights that can very, very, you know, they say in the yogic studies that at a certain level of attainment, you will have powers. You will be able to read people's minds. You might even be able to levitate, walk through walls, walk on water. Walking on water is not a miracle. It's actually a byproduct of mastery over your subtle body, your winds. And that you can be easily distracted by these as a display of magic, as opposed to something that's useful for your practice. And so, you know, at these, it's only at the higher levels of attainment that you're at risk of this stuff, okay? So what Jason Kappa says, and the reason I bring that up is that it's really interesting about vows. You get your basic vows covered, then you get your Bodhisattva vows covered, and then you get your tantric vows, and then all of a sudden the basic vows don't seem so relevant or important, or you think you're better than that somehow because you've been there, done that, right? And he said, don't even think about it. He said to think that the lower vows are unimportant or unnecessary and that you've got to go quickly to the higher vows, or that for some reason if you get your Bodhisattva vows, you got it made and you don't have to worry about your non-virtues. He says it's like a great hail on the rice fields, like it would just destroy all the crops. I've just paraphrased. He says that if you take some kind of higher vows and throw away your lower ones, it's like a hailstorm that destroys the happiness of all people. And he does give the analogy of a hailstorm on grain, where it completely flattens and decimates a field of rice. So, and actually he then says, so throw that idea away like so much garbage, because it's that powerful. And we're given very, very strict warnings about that all along our path, actually. So it's really, really important to know all of your basic stuff, and starting with the 10 non-virtues, and that's why the book is so important about monitoring them. Okay, it is 10 to 9. We're going to take a dance break, and then I'm going to try in the last half hour to give you half of next week's class, okay? You guys hang in there? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So before John left, he selected a song for us. I'll see if I can figure out how to turn it on.